Hey everyone, I'm Kayla Martin Gant, and I am the Continuing Education Coordinator for the Mississippi Library Commission. This is part 4 of my 5-part series on social media for libraries, and this one's going to be all about Twitter. So first I'm going to go into a little introduction about what Twitter is, and then I'm going to talk about how it works and some of the features and how you can utilize those for your library marketing. Some best practices to keep in mind, and then going to get into the statistics and analytics. So first, what is Twitter? It is a microblogging website. It was created by Jack Dorsey and Evan Williams in 2006. And by now, it has over 100 million daily active users and 500 million posts or tweets sent a day. It has a 280 character post limit, which doesn't seem like a lot, and in a way isn't, but first of all, it is double what it originally was, which was 140 characters. But it also makes for really fast-paced exchanges that are easy to scan. Uh, it makes for a very conversational platform, which makes it kind of semi-casual in a way that a lot of other social media platforms aren't. And it's really, really good for quick personal interaction. So Twitter's ideal for a lot of things. One of the things that has become, as the years go by, a bigger and bigger part of Twitter is real-time amateur reporting. So people who are on the scene of a particular thing that's happening, like a current event thing, they really get an eyes on the ground approach that a lot of news stations don't necessarily. And your mileage may vary on how credible you find that, but it is very interesting to see how so many things going on in the world are often broken on Twitter before they're broken anywhere else. It's also a place where you can interact person to person with high profile people and celebrities. I mentioned that kind of conversational, casual feel a minute ago, and that's part of what I mean. It feels very much like a less official channel than a lot of other social media outlets do. And while, there's not necessarily a guarantee that if you tweet at someone on Twitter that they're going to respond, especially if they are like a public figure, it's significantly more likely than it would be on any other platform. And that makes it a really interesting place. It's also great for unconventional marketing due to the character limit and how fast-paced and conversational it is. But on that note, it makes it a really great place to have very casual, quick, rapid-fire interactions with your patrons. Some terms you should know. There's going to be quite a few of these because Twitter's a little more complicated in some regards than Facebook and Instagram. At the very least, you're less likely to be familiar with all of the ins and outs of Twitter than you are Facebook and Instagram. So I just want to give a little overview of some of the terminology. First of all, for the completely uninitiated as far as Twitter goes, a tweet is both a verb and a noun. It is what you type and post, as well as the action of doing so. Replies, that's when you use the @ at the start of a tweet to reply to someone. Only the person that you're replying to or people that follow both of you will see the reply. Usually if you want to respond to a tweet, there is a reply button directly there, and the person's username will show up that way, but you can also type it manually. And mentions, I know we covered this, kind of Instagram, but it's slightly different here because on Twitter, if you tag someone, you use the @ and the person's Twitter name, as long as you do it anywhere in the tweet except the very beginning, then that is a mention. Basically, if you start your tweet off with the @ symbol and then the person's username, the only people that are going to see it are the person that you are referencing and anybody that follows the both of you. If you do as little as, put a period or another piece of punctuation and then start the tag with the @ symbol and their Twitter name, then everybody else can see it too. It's just the way that the platform is set up. If you don't type anything else and just immediately tag them, it shows up as a reply to them. So that's just something to keep in mind. Some other things, retweets or RT, that just means sharing someone else's tweet to your followers. It's just like sharing a post. Retweets give the original person credit for the tweet, so it'll show up on your Twitter page and it will show up in the feed of everybody who follows you, but it says, RT at whoever, the username is. So it does reference back the original person. It's not acting like you wrote that thing. Similarly, a quote tweet, that basically allows you to make a tweet of your own, kind of on with like your own comment on top of an image of another person's tweet. Kind of like when you share a post and then on Facebook and then write your own commentary above it. It's kind of the same thing. So hashtags on Twitter, they can be simple keywords or unique phrases or acronyms. They basically just allow people to follow a trending conversation. Note the way that it references a trending conversation and not necessarily just, a trending tag. You have topics on Twitter that I'll cover in a minute, but hashtags on Twitter are used in a little different way than they are on Instagram. Because on Twitter, you're not necessarily going to have, 5 variations of what's essentially the same tag like you might on Instagram. The tags are used way more sparingly on Twitter than they are on Instagram. For Instagram, you're trying to kind of cover all your bases and really cast a wide net in terms of audience. On Twitter, when you're using hashtags, you're usually referencing a specific person or event or thing, that's going on, a specific conversation that you want to be a part of. So these are some examples of these terms kind of in action. This one here on the left, I put in there because I wanted to show you guys what your notification page would look like. So when you click your notifications, you see all, and then you see mentions. When you have all selected, it's going to show you, when people follow you, when they like tweets or replies, when they reply to you, all of that. This one in the middle, I just wanted to show you what the retweet reference looked like. You see right up here, it says that you retweeted this thing from PBS right here. So it allows you to still, make sure that you're crediting the original poster of the thing that you're sharing. And then this one on the right is just showing you, what a quote tweet looks like. You can see Linda Williams Jackson, the author, who's an excellent author, by the way. If you haven't read Midnight Without a Moon and a Sky Full of Stars, you need to do that. They're incredible. But she tweeted, and at the Mississippi Library Commission, we quote tweeted her so that everybody could see the post that she specifically made, but we also wanted to add our own commentary to it. So that's what that's going to look like there. Okay, some more terms. Bookmarks. Those are, bookmarks are essentially like saved posts on Facebook and on Instagram. They just allow you to save a tweet for quick access later so that you don't lose it. Blocking an account, it's the same thing like you would on Facebook and Instagram. It just means that they can't follow you, they can't add you to any of their Twitter lists. You won't receive a notification if they mention you, and if you do block someone, they can't see any of your tweets on your timeline, and you can't see any of theirs. You can also mute accounts. You can mute accounts, words and phrases, usernames, hashtags, all of that. So you can also mute direct message notifications, but like muting seems like a really weird thing, but a lot of people use it. If there's a topic that like everybody's talking about and it's driving them nuts and they don't want to see it, they can mute that. But a lot of people use it for like spoilers if they are not caught up necessarily on a show and they need to get on Twitter for something, but they don't want to get spoiled. They'll block like lots of words and phrases and stuff and like hashtags that have to do with that particular piece of media. So hopefully they don't get spoiled for anything. Okay, so how Twitter works. This section is going to be a little lengthier because there are a lot of different components of Twitter. It's not as complicated as it sounds, but it is a lot of information. So just strap in, y'all. First, just the basic getting started information. You choose, your handle, your cover photo, because you can choose a cover photo on your account on Twitter, much like you can on Facebook. With Instagram, you don't really get that, but Facebook and Twitter, you can choose a cover photo. And of course, your profile picture. Make sure, like I've said in the other videos in this series, that you are choosing usernames, cover photos, profile pictures, all of that match your other accounts. You want your Twitter bio to be similar to your Instagram bio, but typically it'll probably be a little shorter because you're only allowed so much room in your bio. So you want your library's full name. You can put the general location. And maybe if you have the room, a brief bit of your mission statement, but really what you want is the library's full name, not just an acronym, and then your location. And make sure that you put your website's URL in your Twitter bio, because you want people to be able to find you and immediately go to your website if they need something. So these are the some of the more in-depth tools that you will be using on Twitter. And I kind of tried to put them in order of importance that you'll be using like as a library. So let's jump in. So what is a thread? A thread, it's basically a series of connected tweets from a single person or account. So when there's 4 or more tweets in a thread, they'll be truncated, and you can click show this thread to expand. Because, if somebody's tweeting a whole bunch of stuff, they don't want it to clog up your feed like that, so they'll kind of condense it all down. The threads, though, on your profile timeline are going to appear separately and in reverse chronological order, because when you tweet things and then you go to your profile, they show up as you tweet them. So it's going to show up in reverse order on your actual profile page. Also, just for note, in this slideshow, all of these right here, anything that's underlined in teal is a link to further explanations. Again, I will provide those links afterward in the notes at the end of this video, so just keep an eye out for that. But since I'm giving the most basic overview possible, I wanted to make sure to give you guys more detailed information that I just am not going to have time necessarily to go over in this video. So this is kind of what a thread looks like. We're starting from the left, and this was just a fun thing that Katie, the one who runs our Twitter account, did in March, like right after we all got sent to work from home during the pandemic. She asked, are you missing that in-person library experience and want to recreate it in the time of social distancing? Reply here for one of the following: a shush, directions to our bathroom, directions to one of our collections, or an explanation of why you should get a library card. And immediately people started replying. And you can see the line here from like this person's reply who asked if they could get a shush, that they were very excited, to Katie's response of, actually shushing this person via Twitter. This line shows a thread. So that's going to be kind of what that looks like. And the rest of this just, it's funny. We had fun. And that's the thing is you can have fun on social media, you guys. It doesn't all have to be super serious. But anytime you see a line connecting two tweets like that, that is going to be a thread. So that's what that looks like. So how do you make one? When you draft a tweet, a little plus sign will appear down like at the bottom right. And if you click that plus sign, you can add another tweet and create a thread. And then once you have all the tweets you want to add and you click tweet all, it just automatically creates that thread for you. And you can always go back and add more to a thread by clicking add another tweet from the thread detail page. But the thing is, this is a like relatively new feature. For a long time, if you really, really, really needed to say something and it was going to take more than one tweet, you would have to respond to your own tweet like really quickly, which if you didn't have a lot of followers and like not a lot of people were interacting at that time was fine. But if you were an account with a lot of followers and you didn't like immediately have everything you wanted to say ready to go, it could be really confusing because people might respond to one part of the tweet and not the other, and it would just sometimes turn into like a big mess. And people started trying to circumvent that by saying, one of, question mark, like however many tweets, because they didn't know how long it was going to take them to finish what they needed to say. So you might still see that, but now Twitter has added a feature that's like, hey, okay, if you need to create a thread, here, we got you. So Twitter moments. A moment is essentially a curated story of the top content for specific topics. So when you go to the Explore tab at the top to see moments, you'll see ones that are like customized for you. And you can select them based on categories like trending or news, sports, entertainment. And you can click any moment to see the entire story. And the story is basically just a bunch of tweets that have to do with that particular moment, which has to do with a particular topic. And any public tweet can be included in a moment. So if you don't want a tweet of yours to be included in a moment, you have to block that account. And I know like all of that sounds really weird and complicated, but I promise it's not. When you hit explore on your Twitter account, you see up here, you've got for you, and then there's, a few other different topics. And these are just some of the things, that are kind of currently trending. This picture here on the right, this is an example like from the actual Twitter page, I believe, but this, a year in space. This is a moment that someone put together. And when you click that, when you click this little arrow here, you're going to see all of the tweets along with the text that was tweeted and who it was from. And this is like just a bunch of tweets from throughout the year that have to do with space, that are like from NASA and other organizations like that. And it'll kind of look like a story from Instagram or Facebook. So that's kind of the analogy you're looking for in order to understand how that works. But it's instead of a story being curated from tweets or posts from one person. It's a bunch of tweets from like a bunch of different people about one topic. So how do you make one? You first of all, you could retweet or quote tweet any moment. And if you click any of the tweets within a moment, you can interact with those directly. But Twitter users can create moments and they can see the engagement on their moments. And basically, like whenever you want to create a moment, and I've put a little guide here, there will be an option where when you go to your own personal little menu, like where I told you, you'll hit explore. There will be an option that says create moment, and then you will essentially like type in a topic or something, and you'll surf through tweets and stuff that you like that you want to incorporate into that moment you're creating. You'll just check those off, and then they will be part of that story. So it's very weirdly user friendly considering how hard it is to explain. But Buffer has a really cool article on 4 ways you can utilize Twitter moments for marketing that you guys should definitely check out. So what are Twitter topics? Okay. Like I said, I know this is a lot of terminology that is just, getting tossed around, but that's also why I included these links, because I want you guys to have as much information as possible, but also I don't want to completely overwhelm you. And a lot of this makes sense as you go through your own account. So with Twitter topics, basically you can follow like topics as well as people that often tweet about those topics. So you have a whole sidebar on the left of your Twitter feed. That's where I told you, you'll go to explore and you'll be able to create a moment and all of that. So you'll hit more on the sidebar, and then you'll click follow more topics to see any topics to follow. And you can follow library or library adjacent topics to keep up with news and for like networking purposes. You can follow, different reading and book related topics. You should definitely be following like publishers and other like publishing companies. Twitter is very, very good for interacting with a lot of like behind the scenes people in a way, not just celebrities. So, which is very, very good for library work. But this is kind of what this looks like. So when you go to your sidebar and you hit more and you hit follow more topics, this is the screen that's going to come up. And what it does is gives you some overall topics to look at. And then you can either follow that big vague topic, or you can click these little plus signs and it'll bring up these, little drop down menus that have more specific topics within those industries. So you can see here, I clicked books. You could follow the tag books, which is under the overall umbrella of arts and culture, or you can follow books specifically. You can follow fiction, biographies and memoirs. So you can get pretty specific with it in order to get the information that you need, on the regular. And also, when you are tweeting, if you combine hashtags with like certain topics in your posts, you will get a lot of exposure. Okay, so what is a Twitter card? You guys already know what a Twitter card is, you just didn't know that was what it was called. Twitter cards are these visuals that show up when people like tweet links to your content. And basically what you do is there's a little bit of code that you can put on your website, and Twitter explains how to do all of this. It's very not complicated, I promise. So with a little bit of code on your website, cards that have videos or photos or whatever are attached to tweets that link to your content. So essentially, when somebody shares something, from your website. Like they link to your website on Twitter. This little visual card will come up that will have like a title and a description, and it'll have a thumbnail, or it may have like a really big image, or it can link directly to a mobile app, or if they're linking specifically to a video, you can do a player card that will display video or audio media. And that's essentially so that instead of people just seeing a link and going, maybe I'll click that, the more visual you get, the more likely people are to pay attention. So with a little bit of code on your website, if somebody like shares a video from your website onto Twitter, instead of just saying, hey, look at this video and putting a link down, it'll bring up this card that'll have the actual video display there, and people who click on it to watch it will be taken to your website. This is an example of one that's like a summary with a picture card. This is Kaysen Calendar, who is an author, was sharing the 100 best fantasy books of all time from Time. And when that link got shared, see, it's got the title, it's got a little description of what it is that you're looking at, it's got the website link, and then it's got a really interesting visual to kind of draw people in. And as soon as you click that card, it'll take you to that website. And Twitter cards only take about 15 minutes to create. And Twitter gives you a step-by-step guide on how to create those. So it sounds really complicated, but it's not. And it's one of those things that the more often you do it, the easier it is to do. And it can really, really drive traffic to your website, which is, something that you really want to be doing as a library. Your website is a goldmine of information, and it's where you want people to be looking. What is a Twitter chat? You will see this a lot, especially when it comes to authors and book discussions and publishers, and you'll see it a lot revolving around conferences. So a Twitter chat is basically a Q&A discussion that you conduct via Twitter. The host of a Twitter chat, you either ask questions related to a certain topic, or you throw out a topic and you ask people for their questions on the subject, and then you respond to those questions, and discussion kind of grows out of those replies. It's not visual. It's all conducted, via tweet. And so here are the steps for how to do that. First of all, you choose a topic and either, ask people to ask you questions. And by that, I mean, like, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of an AMA or an Ask Me Anything. And basically, if you choose a topic, one example as a reference librarian could be, okay, reference librarian on duty. The things I'm really, really interested in are space and, I don't know, computer engineering. Ask me anything about those questions. And people, can ask anything relating to those. Or you choose a topic and then you create some engaging questions that are really going to spark a lot of discussion. Then you choose a hashtag to utilize during that chat and during promotion of that chat. There are a lot of different things you could use. One of the things I've seen is I follow a lot of people who also have like migraine, because I have chronic migraine. And so I follow people on Twitter who, talk about that a lot. And there are a couple of accounts that do Twitter chats like every week or so, and it's just hashtag migraine chat. But during that specific time, that's the hashtag they use. And people, whenever they respond to this person's questions, they use that hashtag as well. So that whenever people are looking, they can look into that hashtag and see everything that's being said. So you figure out a topic, you figure out your questions, you figure out your hashtag, and then you make sure to promote that chat. You tell people the date, time, topic, and the appropriate hashtags that you're using. It's just like a library event in a way, but you're doing it via Twitter. You can also get help from a guest to tweet or help monitor the hashtag, just to make sure you're not missing anything. And then make sure that you continue to monitor that tag afterward, to answer any follow-up questions you may need to see how the discussion's going. There are a lot of things oftentimes that happen after Twitter chats, because the Twitter chats spark a lot of discussion that people then carry on, and they still utilize that hashtag, and you can get a lot of information from that. Okay, this is going to wrap up the tools and options portion of this presentation, and I'm not going to go into all of these super extensively. That's why I just listed them here. You have Twitter lists, which are basically lists of Twitter accounts that you put together because, you know, they have to do with a certain thing. So like you could create, you know, a Twitter list that's all, you know, Mississippi libraries, and every account on that list is going to have to do, you know, with a Mississippi library. It's pretty self-explanatory. Twitter also has a live option. People don't use it as much as like they do Facebook Live or Instagram Live, but Twitter does have a live option, and they do it through this other app called Periscope. So if you see, you know, like Twitter Live things, or you see Periscope, those two go together. On Twitter, you can also conduct polls. You can do audio tweets, and there's a thing called TweetDeck. And TweetDeck just essentially allows you to view multiple timelines at one time. Like if you've got multiple Twitter accounts, maybe each library in your system has a different Twitter account, or something like that. You can use TweetDeck to view all of those accounts at one time. So now we're moving on to some best practices as far as Twitter goes. Some things to think about. Make sure that you tweet frequently and consistently, and you are professional but casual. I know that that is the advice I tend to give, but it's especially important with Twitter because Twitter is very casual, it's very conversational. That's not to say unprofessional, but it is casual. And also, you have to tweet a lot. Because of how fast-paced it is and how conversational it is, you can't get away with tweeting, you know, every once in a while. Nobody is going to see that. You have to tweet regularly, but more than your own original content posts, you need to be interacting with other posts. That's the main thing you need to be doing on Twitter. You really, really have to engage with other people on Twitter, even more so than any other platform. Also, make sure when you are tweeting original content that you are telling a story with it. You know, if you want to talk about a new book you're getting in, instead of just saying, you know, hey, it's a new release, you can tweet a blurb or review about the book. You can, you know, make a graphic and have the book's tagline in it. You know, make it interesting. So a few other things. Don't automate. I say that, and I need to explain what I mean. There are a lot of tools that are typically referred to as automation tools that go, with like your content schedulers and your content calendars and all that. That's not the kind of automation I mean. What I mean is don't, like if you're going to make a post on Instagram, you can link your Twitter and your Instagram together, and you can send whatever you are making on Instagram, you can have it post to Twitter. But the problem is it doesn't do anything except post a link that just says Instagram and then whatever the whole post address is. So like it's not actual content, it's just a link, and it looks ugly and lazy, and that's not the way you want to do things. You also, on that note, like you don't want to post the exact same content worded the exact same way across all your platforms anyway. So automation in that regard, don't do it. Make sure on Twitter that you are utilizing both unique and trending hashtags. I talked about that on Instagram, but on Twitter especially, whatever's trending, that is the conversation that people are talking about right that minute. So you need to be paying attention to what is trending on Twitter. Make sure that you are employing visuals. Go for the multimedia approach. It's like, Facebook and Instagram. You want to be interesting visually. You want to catch people's eye. Granted, Twitter is typically more text-based and Instagram is typically more visual, but you do need to include a little of column A, a little of column B. Another thing for Twitter that is going to save you is using a link shortener. There is this website, bit.ly, that it's bit.ly, and you can get a free account, and all it does is it takes really long web addresses and makes a way shorter link out of them. And that is ideal for Twitter so that your link doesn't eat up your character count. But it's also good for Instagram too, because you don't want to attach a huge long web address to your post because visually that's just really, really unappealing. But it's very necessary for Twitter. So when I talked about automation, I was talking, primarily about cross-platform promotion. You definitely want to cross-platform promote. You want to talk about some of the same things on all of your accounts. Not the exact same posts all the time, but you definitely, especially if you're promoting a big event or a specific collection, you want to cross-promote, but you don't want to set that to do so automatically because like I said, like it's not going to be visually pleasing at all. And really it's gonna look ugly and it's gonna look like you didn't bother trying, and that's exactly how people will respond to it. So cross-platform promotion, yes. Automated posts from other platforms, don't do that. Okay, we are nearing the end. Now we're going to talk really quickly about your Twitter analytics. First, some valuable metrics to pay attention to with Twitter, because yes, likes and retweets and all of that are great, but those are often referred to as vanity metrics. These are some of the things that are actually going to yield you some useful information. Your top tweet and your top mention, your new follower count and who your top followers are, the engagements and engagement rate, your impressions, people who have like clicked your links and actually gone to the websites you are linking them to. And then if you do ads on Twitter, cost per result, which I wouldn't, as a library, I don't think it would really benefit you, especially just starting out, to do Twitter ads. Maybe later once you get really established, but if you're going to do ads, I would do, I would do them on Facebook, maybe on Instagram, not on Twitter. Twitter analytics, if you, go to your drop down menu, you click analytics. That is the built-in the built-in Twitter insights for all of those metrics that I just told you about. And it's pretty thorough, but you might want some more information than it provides. So social rank, social mention, and union metrics are some third-party plans that have free versions of like specific analytics. Social rank will analyze follower metrics. Social mention is just a website, like you don't even have to sign up for it. It just is a website that shows what people are saying about whatever organization you type in. And then union metrics, you do have to sign up for it, but it gives you a free snapshot report of your Twitter analytics. And then Twitter also has a thing kind of like the Creator Studio for Facebook and Instagram. It has the Media Creator, which I've linked you to here. But the Media Creator, along with your other like Twitter analytics, can give you a relatively full snapshot picture of your Twitter metrics and the kind of engagement that you're getting on Twitter with your posts. So that's going to wrap up this one. Again, I am Kayla Martin Gant. I'm the Continuing Education Coordinator at the Mississippi Library Commission. That is my email address and my phone number. You can always email or call me if you have any questions about this or anything else library related. And if I don't have the answer, I likely know where to send you. So be on the lookout for my last video coming up, which is going to be talking about content managers and schedules and kind of putting all of this information together. Thanks.